somebody else.
But
No, I think everybody. That's
I don't know when those come out, but I don't see anything. So that's why I'm not sure.
Talk to
Whoever I need to
the auditor's office.
Okay. It also,
Should have gotten paid.
mine says it's for 240. So I'm guessing I got two in the
Probably,
same calendar
it would have been
year.
your 24 and 25 because
Okay, so 25 is like,
120 a meeting and we should have got, so
Yeah.
that's probably the 24 meeting and the 25 meeting in one.
maybe.
Yeah.
I looked in the last 90 days. I don't have any
Weird.
thing. So that's why I was like, oh, I forgot it was even a.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is noon, so I will call this meeting of the Pulaski County Advisory Commission on Industrial Development to order. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. You received the agenda as well as the minutes of last year's meeting. Do we have anything we wish to extract for discussion, or do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve it.
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Next on the agenda, we have the reorganization of the commission for 2026, which entails the election of the three officers. The president runs meetings, might, in a rare occasion, have to sign a document or two, and by virtue of holding that seat, serves on the CDC, which typically meets on a quarterly basis. Bill Champion was our president last year. He is unable to be here, and by his own admission, his attendance has been a bit of a struggle the last year, and so we are open to having someone else serve as president. Vice president for 2025 was Mr. Roth, and really the only job the vice president has is to run meetings in the president's absence. And last year's secretary was Mr. Fox, and the secretary is just asked to review and to okay minutes that staff have prepared before dissemination to the full commission, and potentially to attest an occasional signature. Do we have any volunteers or nominations to serve as president for 2026?
I'll nominate Doug Roth.
Any other volunteers or nominations? Well, we now need somebody to fill the role of vice president if Doug does in fact step up. Do we have any volunteers or nominations for the office of vice president?
I'll nominate Jason Paulo.
Jason, do you accept?
with reluctance.
Any other volunteers or nominations? Do we have any volunteers or nominations for the office of secretary?
I'll volunteer to do it.
I'll nominate Tim.
Thank you.
Any other volunteers or nominations? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close nominations and to approve the slate as presented.
So moved.
A second. We have a second from Mr. Roth. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Slate is approved. Doug, you're in charge now. Moving along on the agenda to the financial report very briefly. The Industrial Park Improvements Fund has a current balance of $43,643.86. That is unchanged from last year's meeting in January. Our general donation fund, which is available for use by both this board and by the county to support any development of a new fairgrounds in the industrial park, which increasingly seems unlikely to happen, but has been a theoretical plan for about 40 years, has a current balance of $67,779.49. And for the record, in 2002, Ralph Braun and Don Galbraith, who had been the financial backers for the entire process that brought the farmland into county ownership for industrial development, said that it was okay to use this fund for industrial park uses. And several years ago, after Mr. Braun had passed, but while Mr. Galbraith was still alive, Mr. Galbraith had explicitly told me with his attorney present that if the county ever needed to use the land that had been set aside for fairgrounds for industrial development, there would be no problem there. The only obstacle is that is currently where the power from the past shed and the remote control airstrip are. So that lease would have to be addressed and all that. And obviously we haven't seen enough need to remove those for development yet. That balance of 67 and change is down $5,500 from last year. We used this fund to pay the 2 appraisers who performed appraisals of the ground. CDC donation fund has $10,386.47. $3386.47 of that is real, so to speak, where we have some flexibility, while the remaining $7,000 or so is set aside for specific purposes based on contributors' wishes for either programmatic support or to support projects. And this fund isn't technically for the use of this commission specifically, but it's also not for this use. It's for my office to use as we need it for things that don't necessarily fit under one of the specific line items in our budget or are something that county generally prefers not be spent with tax dollars. So the county has always had a policy or at least guidelines about subscribing to the newspaper with taxpayer funds. So my annual subscription to the Journal for the office comes out of this. When we held a dinner in September for the courthouse project steering committee and everyone else who had played a role in that, we used this fund so we didn't take it out of my taxpayer funded budget, that sort of thing. So it's there if we ever need it, but it's not the first go-to amongst funds. Any questions about the financial report? Can get a motion to approve the financial report as presented then? So moved. Any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving along to old business. The industrial park land appraisal that I just mentioned. We had this conversation last year. We had some potential interest expressed for acquisition, some of the land. It was, I think, April or so before we actually had the work done. I had some back and forth with the commissioners before they were ready for us to go ahead and do this, but we ended up having it done. Indiana code requires 2 appraisals. We used Cornerstone and Don R. Scheit, both out of Lafayette, and both of whom had done work for the county in the past. Per Indiana code 36713.13-5.5A, appraisals of land managed by this commission are not available for public inspection, but if any of you would like for me to send you a copy or a summary of the results, let me know and I will send that out to you. We have not seen any further concrete interest in needing to convene to discuss acquisition of any of the remaining land out there, but based on ongoing conversations, I do think that a strong possibility remains in the near to semi-near future for that. So if such a thing does occur, we will need to reconvene. Any questions about the appraisal or the land we appraised generally?
Did you feel the values were where they should have been?
Yeah, based on where they had been the previous years, the comps that they showed and kind of accounting for inflation, they seem to be relatively reasonable. Anybody else? All right, other thing on old business. Last year, during our other business discussion, we sort of got off on a tangent that led to Chelsea being a bit horrified to learn that the county had not updated its comprehensive plan since 2009. And we decided we should start that conversation. Before I took it to the Board of Commissioners, I took it to the CDC meeting in February. They were on board with it, echoed what this commission said, and asked me to take it to the commissioners. at the commissioners meeting when I intended to do so. Leanne Wright from the Community Foundation was also on the agenda before me. She was sharing the Ball State report that had been completed at the end of 2024. One of the recommendations of which was that the county update its comprehensive plan. So I didn't have to bring it up, but I seconded what she said. Last summer, we started the process to develop a new comprehensive plan with grant funding from the state. We only had 2 consultants offer proposals. We interviewed them. Our committee unanimously agreed on one over the other. Unfortunately, when you are doing one of these projects with grant funding, you are not allowed to take project cost into consideration in evaluating them. So we did not have costs in front of us during those conversations. After I informed the preferred firm, they came back with 3 cost proposals, and I had known that they were going to offer some proposals that would be above where we could land based on grant funding and what local match we had committed. But even their lowest option was measurably above what we had committed. We did not have time to negotiate with the other firm to see if they could come in at a lower cost. And so we put it on ice temporarily. Planning grants are awarded quarterly, but in the interim, the county committed to be the applicant of record for an application for a new fire station in Madeiryville, which means that we could not go through that. Things with that got messy, and eventually the county decided that we would self-fund this project. So we are back on track. The request for proposals, which is much more substantial now that we're doing it on our own, has gone out to 12 firms. It has been published on the website of the Indiana chapter of the American Planning Association. Proposals are due back to me and our building inspector by the end of February, so that process will be moving forward. It's a comp plan is ultimately, it is more than anyone else's, is the Plan Commission's baby. But I am hopeful that members of this commission and the other commissions I work with will, to the greatest extent possible, engage in some of the public engagement part of the development process. And I may poll the members when we're getting into that process in a few months to see if you have any interest in convening specifically to have the consultants discuss this in a meeting with us. I mean, comprehensive plan covers all manners of things, starting with obviously like land use and related matters and transportation, but also land use with respect to future industrial development possibilities. And so certainly people at this table, can bring value in the general public engagement process, but I think there might be value in bringing you back together for a meeting where the consultants are on the agenda. Any comments on that? Any agreement, any pushback? Think it's worth our time?
Agree.
Cool. Then we will see how that plays out, and part of it will depend on exactly, like, once we've negotiated the budget and the final details of the scope of work, how many meetings they allow for, because obviously the Plan Commission, county commissioners are going to have to be at the top of that list, but we want to have them in some way engaged with as many of the relevant commissions within county government as possible, in addition to community stakeholders and the public at large. But I think that's worth pursuing if it fits within the budget. Moving on to new business, future meetings. Unless you guys want like a mid-year check-in just to convene, my intention is not to schedule any meetings again unless it is for this comprehensive plan discussion or we have interest in purchasing some of the land, in which case we'll probably need to do an executive session and a public meeting at which we would make a recommendation to the county commissioners about the sale of that land. Is that all right with you guys? Do you want to check in for the sake of a check-in, or you just want to wait to see when we need to convene?
Probably no need to check in
Okay.
until something happens, right?
Okay. Then the last thing I have under new business, just a heads up. Once the CDC meets in a few weeks, we will hammer out more of the details as far as date and location goes. But as always, in April, we will be hosting our annual Economic Development Summit. I hope you guys can make it. And if you have any thoughts on what either who the guest speaker should be or what the guest speaker should talk about so we know who we're looking for, please share them. Either if you have an idea off the top of your head or shoot me an email, call me, come by the office. But want to make sure that the content is relevant. So yeah, if you have any thoughts, let me know, please.
Do you have any dates on that or ideas?
We usually do it towards the end of April. Try to get as far away from this kind of weather as we can, acknowledging that Indiana weather is never going to be super predictable. I don't know. We'll most likely do it in Winnemac. I don't know which venue yet. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order, other business to be discussed? Doug, the CDC meeting, and I'll send you an email and a calendar invite, is on Tuesday, the 10th of February. Do we have any public comment? I don't have any microphones on out there, Brandy. We'll need to turn. Four.
Maybe there's a possibility to have all of us come together and have the people on like all of us. And then I would just like to throw out there but if
Thanks. There's nothing else for the good of the order or any other public comment. We could adjourn one of the quickest meetings I've ever been able to have. If anyone wants to make a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are done in 17 minutes. God bless you all.
15 minutes. Holy cow.